We're back. How's it going? Shawn C, not Chauncey. And I figured it's probably time for me to answer this question because there are a lot of people that wonder why I give an album a certain rating or why I listen to an album a certain way. And I'm here to tell you how I review an album. Not necessarily my criteria, what I like to listen to, but how I consume music, how I believe it should be consumed, and accepting the fact that people consume it in different ways. So basically, a lot of people always ask me, you know, first of all, you can't give an album a review after just one listen. I noticed that most of the time when I see these kinds of comments, they're from people that didn't like the fact that you may have given an album a negative review or a negative score, or a score that just wasn't where they feel it should have been. When you rank something highly or when you really like something, nobody has a problem with you reviewing it after one listen. But if you give it a negative, then hey, you gotta listen to it a million times to really get the concept. You need a certain level. So I try to steer clear of those types of people. I try to help them understand that, you know, music, in my opinion, should not be ranked based off of your subjectivity. It's not something that I'm listening to because I expect such and such from so and so. I have a history with the individual I'm listening to most likely, but I'm going into this fresh, and I could like it, I could not like it. Now, first and foremost, all the projects that I've reviewed, I have not all done after just one listen. I got a lot of just solely reviews on this channel. I got a lot of discussion videos on this channel where I go give my opinion about albums that I've listened to. But when I listen to a project after the first time, the reason I include a reaction and not just a review is so that I don't appear as disingenuous to the people who are watching me. There are a lot of people, and I like this, that comment on some of the more recent videos, like the Lil Uzi Vert video, for instance, where they're like, oh, you said you didn't like a lot of these songs, but you were bumping to this track. And I'm glad that they noticed that, because I don't want them to think that because I didn't like the project as a whole, that every song on the project is immediately trash. Like, I thought X's most recent album had an extremely broken concept, and I felt like it wasn't executed well in the slightest. But I still love tracks like Carry On and Jocelyn Flores. I still gave an extensive, detailed reason as to why I didn't like it, why I felt like it fell short, and a lot of people understood that. But I included those reactions to kind of show people that just because I don't like a body of work as a whole doesn't mean the entire project is trash and that there's nothing, no highlights or anything that I saw from that. I'm not saying it is disingenuous to just give a review to an album, but I can see where people would say it is based on the fact that the reviewer, the publicist, the blog, that wherever you got this information, whoever reviewed the album or the project that they're listening to, whoever reviewed it may say, yeah, okay, I like this song, but you didn't really get to see them listen to it, so you still feel like the entire review was a negative take on the album. That's why I try my best to include, you know, somewhat of a detailed review and a reaction at the same time so that people get to see my initial thoughts, and so people can understand, like, I'm not just this crab that doesn't like anything. Like, I have to listen to an entire project and there's like no songs on this whole thing that I like. Just because I say a body of work isn't where I want it to be doesn't mean that there were no enjoyable tracks on the entire project, and I make that known with my reaction to each song. I even list it in the description. I tell people what my favorite tracks were. They're not down there as the favorite tracks because they're just the best of the worst. You gotta really get through this album. They're listed down there because I personally enjoyed these tracks. If I didn't have a favorite, then I wouldn't list a favorite track. Now let's get back to the point where people say you shouldn't review a project after a first listen. This is, again, completely based on the person's criteria, what they have set, and what the person would generally listen to. Now, I do think it's a good idea to give yourself as much time with a project or a body of work before you give your final verdict of it. I do think it's important to give yourself a lot of time with that. However, if you're somebody like me who consumes a lot of music and you know the type of person that you are, you know how to explain why you do or don't like something, I don't need a week to tell people I like this song, I don't like this song, this concept is broken here, this concept is broken here, I like the way this was done, I like the way this was done. Now, on projects that I've dedicated myself to a review for, of course I'll listen to it between 3 to 6 times. I even gave Joyner Lucas projects well over 5 listens before I gave a review for it, and that album took a minute to get through. But my opinions in those projects wouldn't have been that much different from me listening to it one time. There's so much that I pay attention to on my first listen that by the 4th or 5th listen, there's not that much more information that I'm getting from the project. That's why I'm able to give my first thoughts and opinions about why I like something and why why I don't during my first reaction to it, because I know the kind of person I am. I know the way I consume music. I'm also not giving these albums ratings or rankings based off of appeal either. I'm not ranking it because, oh, a lot of people want you to like this project, so you gotta like it. I go based off of my personal enjoyment with it and based off the replay value. Now, a lot of people get these things mixed up right here. There's a big difference between liking a project and returning to a project. I found myself with this conflict early on in my channel by giving preemptive scores to projects that just didn't make any sense. Like the J. Cole For Your Eyes Only, right? I like that project. Am I revisiting it? No, I haven't listened to it since probably February of this year, which is ironic. Childish Gambino, Because of the Internet, Chance the Rapper, Acid Rap, all projects that I gave good scores to off of my first listen. Like the projects, but how many times am I revisiting it? Not that often, or as often as I assumed I would be based off the fact of me liking it off of my initial listen. Once I figured out that there was a big difference between liking an album and revisiting an album, meaning an album that has a ton of replay value for myself, that's kind of where I decided how I would gauge an album, meaning switching flows, cadence, subject matter, and so forth. I think about projects that I've listened to like daily on a regular basis, like To Pimp a Butterfly. I still listen to that project. There isn't one week I've gone this year without listening to at least one track from To Pimp a Butterfly. Childish Gambino's Awaken My Love, Danny Brown's Atrocity Exhibition, how much I've listened to the new Fleet Foxes project, Jay-Z's 444, Never Story from Jid. I base my ranking for these projects because of how much replay value they have, and when I first listened to them, I knew I would be listening to them again. I knew they had longevity. I knew these albums and these projects had a long lifespan. So me giving them higher rating isn't just because, oh, I just like this artist personally a little bit more than the next guy. It's because I know I'm going to revisit this project. I know what I like. I know the content of the album or the content of the project or the song. So if the project has any lasting power, then of course I'm going to come back and listen to it again. Like I said, big difference between liking something and revisiting something. And that's kind of how I've come to define myself as somebody who uploads these kinds of videos. Is I kind of feel like I have a responsibility, if I'm going to give any kind of critique of a project, to say why I do or don't like it, and not to be preemptive with my score of it. I'm ranking things more so based off of the future as opposed to the present moment. There are a lot of people, like I said, that like projects based off of one listen. They're like, oh man, this thing's, this is amazing, a 10 out of 10, without question. But how many times do they revisit that project? It might be a different story later on down the line. So that's what I think about when I do review some projects, is later on down the line. Will I be listening to this body of work as a whole? No. Will I like a few songs from it? Yes. Are there enough enjoyable songs within this album to get me to listen to the whole thing instead of just going to those songs specifically? If yes, higher score. If not, lower score. Does the artist who did this concept for whatever body of work it is, did he or she do it justice? If yes, score up. If not, score down. And that's another thing people need to kind of understand and accept. Because an artist is trying to go for a certain sound, or he's trying to make an album sound a certain way, that doesn't mean that it goes over well. Because you try to do something doesn't mean you executed it well. Let's say you and I are making pancakes. We both are trying to make pancakes. We both actually made pancakes, but one pancake is better than the other. Oh, because we were both trying to make pancakes, does that mean we both get 10s out of 10s? No. I can see what you were trying to go for, but you missed the mark. Of course, when it comes to any project, I'm viewing it with a sense of objectivity, meaning I'm paying attention to punchlines, I'm paying attention to lyricism, I'm paying attention to the production, I'm paying attention to their concept, I'm paying attention to their album history. There's a reason why so many people think I'm trying to be a know-it-all when it comes to music, or why they feel I'm so pretentious. Because I know what I like, and I'm not going to hold back on what I like. I'm not going to give a soft blow to what I like or the music I tend to consume. That's kind of the problem or issue with people. They're so worried about offending a group of people that they hold back so much on their own opinion. I give the opinion based off what I feel is right. And a big concern when listening to a project is knowing how much lasting power it has. Are you gonna come back to this? And a lot of people don't think about that when they're listening to a project before they say, oh, this is this was an amazing project, this was an amazing body of work. Which is why I understand what a lot of people are saying when they say, oh, you can't listen to something one time and give a review for it, or give it a rating, or give it a score. Like I said, I know what I'm listening for. I know the kind of music that I like. I know the kind of music that should be appreciated. And even after my first listen to a lot of projects, I'm able to look at that and see whether or not I feel it ranks as a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, that's not what I meant. And the reason I even give a ranking or a rating in general is because I want to go back in my kind of album review discography, look at all the albums I've given a certain score to, and listen to that with the mindset of, oh, okay, I gave this an 8, or I generally give albums an 8 because they meet this criteria. Then I can go into my album review vault and look at albums in that category, take them off the shelf, and listen to them again. When someone gives a rating or a ranking to a specific album or project, they're giving that to that project, not every single song on there. So because I give To Pimp a Butterfly a 10 out of 10, or because I love Childish Gambino's Awaken My Love, or Danny Brown's Atrocity Exhibition, or even The Money Store, that does not mean that I liked every single song on those projects. It's the same, it works the same way. But as a body of work, this thing was done beautifully. And that's how I feel. That's how I give albums ratings or rankings, how I review it, what I listen for, everything like that. Of course I didn't do this video justice. There's a lot more I could have talked about, but I'm a little stretched for time right now and I need to get going. But I did want to make this video because there are a lot of people that ask me this question on the regular, on the daily. So thank you guys for watching. Hope I gave you guys a little bit of insight or some form of knowledge as to why I give an album a certain rating. But that's it. It's been Shawn C. I'll see you next time. Peace. Take these glasses off.